I swear I wasn't supposed to be there that long. It started simple, just helping her fix a broken curtain rod in the living room. Sunlight spilled in from the big windows, dust drifting in the air like tiny secrets. I told myself it was no big deal, that I was just doing a favor for my buddy's mom. But the moment she opened the door, something in me stalled. She looked different from how I remembered. Not younger, not at all, but more alive. The kind of alive that made me notice the way her eyes lingered on me a second too long before she looked away. "You grew up on me," she said with a small laugh, like it wasn't a dangerous thing to say. I laughed too quickly, too loudly. "Guess that happens after a few years." She shook her head, her hand brushing back a loose strand of hair. "No, it's more than that." The air went still. I bent down to check the screws in the wall, grateful for something to look at besides her. My hands felt clumsy, though I'd done this sort of thing 100 times before. She stood close enough that I could smell her perfume. Light, not overpowering, like flowers left in the sun too long. "You always were handy," she said softly, almost to herself. I tried to keep it casual. "Better than paying someone, right?" Her smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. "True. Still, it's nice having company." There was weight in that last word. I pretended not to hear it the way she meant it. But I did. God, I did. We worked in silence for a while, or maybe I worked while she watched. I could feel her eyes on my shoulders, the back of my neck. My chest felt too tight in my shirt. Every time I glanced her way, she looked somewhere else, pretending to straighten a photo frame or fold a throw blanket. When I finished, I stood up and dusted my hands off. "Should hold fine now." "Thank you," she said. Then, quieter, "You really didn't have to." I shrugged. "I wanted to." Her eyes lifted to mine at that, sharp, searching, like she was trying to read something I didn't even know I was showing. A long pause stretched between us. I should have left right then. Instead, I found myself lingering, running my hand along the edge of the window frame just to give my body a reason to stay. She stepped closer, her voice lower now. "You know, your friend's not home for the weekend." Something in my chest thudded hard enough that I almost laughed just to cover it. "Oh, guess it's just us then." Her lips curved. Not a smile exactly, more like she was deciding whether she should regret saying the next thing. "You're not a kid anymore, are you?" The way she said it, steady but trembling at the edges, made every sound in the house disappear. I didn't answer right away. Couldn't. My throat was dry, my hands restless at my sides. She tilted her head, waiting, her eyes never leaving mine. The curtain rod was fixed. The job was done. I should have walked out. Instead, I let the silence hold us both, too charged, too alive, until one of us had to break. And she did. Her hand brushed mine, light as a whisper, but enough to set my whole body on fire. Her hand lingered a second too long against mine. Not enough for anyone else to notice, but enough that my pulse refused to calm down. I forced a laugh, shifting back half a step. "Careful, you'll make me think you actually needed me here." Her eyes narrowed, amused, but something flickered underneath. Something heavier. Maybe I did. That threw me. I searched her face, trying to decide if she meant it as a joke. She didn't look away this time. I shouldn't have been standing in her living room like this. She was my friend's mom, for God's sake. Off-limits didn't even begin to cover it. And yet, the room was warm, sunlight bending through the curtains, catching in her hair. She looked tired in a way I hadn't noticed before. Not just from the day, but from years. The kind of tired you carry in your bones. The kind you don't show unless someone's close enough to see. "You seem different," I heard myself say, my voice lower than I meant. Her lips pressed together before curving into the faintest smile. "Different good or different bad?" I swallowed. "Good." That word hung between us, sharper than any tool I just used. She dropped her gaze, smoothing the edge of a pillow that didn't need fixing. "It's strange," she said finally. The house is so full when he's home, but when he's gone. She trailed off, fingers fussing at the fabric. It's too quiet. There it was, the crack in her voice, the kind of honesty people usually keep hidden. I wanted to say something comforting, something safe. Instead, I noticed the faint line of her collarbone where her blouse had slipped a little, and guilt punched me in the chest. You don't deserve to feel like that, I murmured before I could stop myself. Her head lifted, eyes catching mine again. A pause stretched, long, uneasy, and electric. I looked away, pretending to study the framed photos on the mantel. Old family vacations, birthdays, her younger self smiling with people I'd only half recognized. She had been beautiful then. She was breathtaking now, and I hated myself for thinking it. You always were kind, she said softly, almost as if it hurt to admit. I shifted my weight, hands fidgeting. Kind doesn't fix everything. No, she agreed. But sometimes it's enough. She stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the warmth of her body before she even touched me. My chest tightened. I wanted to step back, to break the moment, but my feet wouldn't move. Her hand brushed my arm this time, slower, deliberate. You don't have to rush off, do you? She asked, voice careful but threaded with something I couldn't name. I hesitated. Every part of me screamed to leave, but the pull in her eyes was stronger. I guess not, I said, barely above a whisper. The corner of her mouth lifted, almost imperceptibly. Good. And suddenly, the quiet of the house didn't feel empty anymore. I told myself I'd only stay a few more minutes, just enough to not look rude. Then I'd be out the door before this got out of hand. But minutes stretched in her company like hours. She poured 2 glasses of iced tea, the kind with too much lemon, and we sat across from each other at the kitchen table. The silence was charged. Not awkward, not exactly. More like we were both waiting for something neither of us had the courage to name. She broke it first. You've changed so much. I let out a breathy laugh. In a good way, I hope. Her eyes didn't waver. You're not that kid who used to raid the fridge and leave muddy shoes in the hall. You carry yourself different now. My throat tightened. I wanted to thank her, to joke it off, but the way she was looking at me made the words stick. Instead, I noticed her hand resting near mine on the table. Her nails painted a pale pink. I almost brushed her fingers. Almost. A phone rang suddenly, sharp against the quiet. She jumped, standing quickly. Sorry, she muttered, reaching for it. Her voice dropped as she answered. I caught fragments. Yes, no, I'm fine. He'll be back tomorrow. My chest ached at the way her tone softened, like she didn't want whoever was on the other end to worry. When she hung up, she lingered against the counter, her shoulders a little slumped. You okay? I asked gently. She glanced back at me, her smile quick and unconvincing. Just family stuff. Nothing important. I wanted to push, to ask more, but the look in her eyes warned me off. Instead, I stood, moving toward the sink with my empty glass. Our hands brushed when she reached to take it. Neither of us pulled away right away. Her breath caught, and for a moment, it felt like the world had narrowed to the space between our fingers. I swallowed hard, pulling my hand back too quickly. I should probably get going. She turned, facing me fully now. If that's what you really want. The way she said it, soft, steady, daring me to contradict her, made my pulse stumble. I opened my mouth, closed it again. My chest felt too tight. It's not about what I want, I muttered, barely audible. Her brows drew together, but her eyes never left mine. The knock at the front door broke everything. We both froze. She glanced toward it, then back at me, like we'd been caught doing something we hadn't even done yet. The knock came again, louder this time. She moved toward the hallway, her hand brushing my arm as she passed. The touch burned, lingering longer than it should. Don't go, she whispered before disappearing around the corner. I stood there, heart hammering, every part of me torn between leaving right now and staying to find out what she meant. The knock at the door faded into silence. Whoever it was must have given up. I heard her soft footsteps return before she appeared in the doorway again. "They left," she said, almost whispering, as if admitting it out loud made the air heavier. I nodded, unsure whether I felt relief or disappointment. The house seemed even quieter now, like it was listening. "You're still here," she said, her voice gentler than before. I told myself I'd leave, my mouth curved in a humorless smile. Guess I'm bad at listening to myself. She studied me for a long moment, her arms folding loosely across her chest. Not defensive, more like she didn't know what else to do with her hands. "You don't have to," she said. "Leave, I mean, that shouldn't have undone me the way it did." My chest ached like I'd been holding my breath for hours. I shifted, searching for some safer ground. "You know this. This is complicated." Her lips twitched in something that wasn't quite a smile. Complicated. That's one word for it. I met her eyes. I shouldn't have, because once I did, I couldn't look away. "What would you call it, then?" She hesitated. The pause stretched, thick with everything she wasn't saying. Then, softly, "Dangerous." That word hit me harder than I expected. "So why aren't we stopping?" Her chest rose and fell, slow and uneven. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she stepped closer, closing half the distance between us. "I don't know," she whispered. I felt the air shift, charged, fragile, inevitable. My hands flexed at my sides, itching to reach for her. I forced them to stay still. "You'll regret it," I said, though the words sounded more like a plea than a warning. Her gaze flickered, not away, but deeper. "Maybe, but right now, I don't." The room tilted around me. I took a slow step toward her, close enough now that the warmth of her body brushed mine. My heart was a hammer in my throat. "I shouldn't want this," I murmured. She swallowed, her voice barely a breath. "And yet you do." Her words cut straight through the last of my defenses. My jaw tightened. I wanted to speak, to confess everything. The way I'd thought about her when I shouldn't have, the way I noticed her smile lingered when no one else was around, the way leaving this house tonight felt impossible. But the words stuck in my throat. Instead, I reached up without thinking, brushing a strand of hair from her face. My fingertips lingered too long against her skin. She closed her eyes at the touch, just for a second. When she opened them again, they were shining. Not with tears, but with something I didn't dare name. The silence that followed was deafening. Then she asked, steady but trembling at the edges, "Do you want me to stop?" Her question hung in the air. "Do you want me to stop?" I opened my mouth, but no words came. My throat was too tight, my chest too full. Before I could answer, her phone buzzed on the counter again. Sharp, insistent. She flinched like the sound had burned her. She didn't pick it up. Instead, she turned her gaze back to me, searching, waiting. The silence stretched until I finally whispered, "No." Her breath shuddered out, the tiniest relief showing in her shoulders. But then she glanced at the phone again, and something flickered in her expression. "I shouldn't," she started, then stopped. She pressed her lips together like the rest of the sentence was dangerous. "What?" I asked softly. She looked at me, really looked. "You remind me of him." The words knocked me back a step. "Of who?" Her eyes dropped to the table, voice lower now. "Your father." The air went out of the room. I blinked. "You knew my dad?" A pause, then a slow, reluctant nod. "A long time ago, before he was married. We were friends." The word friends carried a weight that made my stomach twist. I searched her face, every detail suddenly sharper. The curve of her jaw, the faint line between her brows, the warmth in her eyes that I'd mistaken for just me. "How come I never knew?" I asked, my voice sharper than I meant. "Because it was nothing official," she said quickly. And I was younger then. We lost touch when he met your mother. I never expected. She stopped, her throat tightening. I never expected you to grow up looking so much like him. I ran a hand through my hair, trying to process. It wasn't that anything wrong had happened yet, but the connection felt like a revelation too heavy to ignore. So all this time, I muttered, you've been seeing him in me? Her head snapped up. No, don't say it like that. I see you. But sometimes. She cut herself off, her eyes wet now. Sometimes it scares me how much. The raw honesty in her voice stunned me into silence. I wanted to be angry, but I wasn't. I was torn. My chest ached with something I couldn't name. The phone buzzed again, louder, longer. She grabbed it this time, fumbling with the screen. I caught a glimpse. Your son will be back tomorrow evening. Her hand trembled as she set the phone down. She didn't look at me. You should go. I stepped closer instead, my voice low. Is that what you want? Her eyes lifted, full of conflict. She opened her mouth, but no sound came. The silence was suffocating. Finally, she whispered, I don't know anymore. And in that moment, the ground between us shifted, no longer just about temptation, but about history, about truths neither of us had been ready to face. Her whisper, I don't know anymore, echoed in my head, louder than the buzzing phone, louder than the pounding of my own pulse. I should have turned, walked out, and left her with the safety of unanswered questions. Instead, I found myself stepping closer until I could see the faint tremor in her lips. You don't have to know, I said softly. Not right now. Her eyes searched mine, wide, vulnerable. Then what are we doing? I exhaled, my hands flexing uselessly at my sides. Trying not to ruin something that already feels ruined if we pretend it doesn't exist. She let out a shaky laugh that wasn't really a laugh at all. Do you hear yourself? You sound like him. My chest tightened. I'm not him. Her eyes shone, wet at the corners. I know. That's what terrifies me. The honesty in her voice left me unsteady. I wanted to reach for her, but I held back. Every nerve screamed to close the distance. Yet I couldn't shake the thought of what crossing it meant. For her. For me. For the friendship we were both betraying without even touching. I forced the words out. Tell me to leave and I will. Right now. You'll never have to see me again. She went still. Her lips parted, but no words came. Instead, she lifted a hand and touched the side of my face, her fingers featherlight, like she was testing if I was real. I can't, she whispered. That broke me. My eyes closed, leaning into her touch before I could stop myself. The warmth of her palm, the softness of her skin. It felt like the answer I'd been waiting for, even if it was the wrong one. I've thought about this, I admitted, my voice raw. More than I should. I told myself it was just a phase, that it would pass. But it doesn't. Her hand trembled against my cheek. You think I haven't? Every time I tell myself it has to stop, it only gets harder. I opened my eyes. The distance between us was gone now. Every unspoken word, every lingering glance, every near touch had led us here. I don't want you to regret this, I said, though my chest was already aching at the thought of letting her go. She gave a small, broken smile. Maybe regret's a price I'm willing to pay. The silence that followed was unbearable. My hand finally found hers, holding it tight. Neither of us moved, like we were waiting for the world to collapse around us. Then, slowly, she leaned forward, her forehead resting against mine. No kiss, no grand gesture, just the raw weight of two people finally too tired to keep pretending. I don't know what happens after this, she whispered. Neither do I admitted. But I know I'm not walking away. The words hung between us, fragile and irrevocable. And in the stillness of that moment, the decision was made, not perfect, not safe, but real. The house had gone quiet again, but not like before. Not empty, Not lonely. The kind of quiet that feels like the air is holding its breath, waiting to see what you'll do next. She hadn't moved her forehead from mine, and I hadn't asked her to. We just stood there, hand in hand, caught in a moment neither of us had the courage to break. Finally, she pulled back just enough to look at me. Her eyes were searching, tired, but brighter somehow. "Do you realize what this means?" I nodded slowly. "Yeah. Everything changes." For a long second, she just studied me, maybe measuring if I was strong enough to understand what I was saying. Then she gave the faintest smile, a mix of hope and fear. "You're not a kid anymore. I see that now." Those words, the same ones that had started all of this, hit different this time. Not teasing, not uncertain, but honest, like she was finally admitting what we both knew. "I don't want to pretend," I said. "Not anymore." Her fingers tightened around mine. "Then we don't." It wasn't a promise of perfection. We both knew there would be consequences, questions, maybe even regrets. But in that moment, none of it mattered. What mattered was that we weren't lying to ourselves anymore. Later, as I left her house, the sun was just beginning to set, throwing long shadows across the quiet street. I thought about the years she'd spent alone in that house, about the weight she carried when no one was looking. And I thought about the way she'd looked at me tonight. Not as her son's friend, not as a reminder of the past, but as a man standing in front of her, willing to risk everything just to be seen. I knew I'd never forget that look. And maybe that's the real truth of it. Life doesn't hand you perfect moments. It gives you flawed, complicated ones, and you decide whether they're worth holding on to. As I walked away, I didn't feel like I'd crossed a line. I felt like I'd finally stopped pretending the line wasn't there. And deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. Did you enjoy the story? What do you think about choices like theirs? Do you believe in taking risks for connection, even when it's complicated? What kind of stories would you like to hear next? Should I write more slow burn, forbidden romances, or something entirely different?